Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boys here with another episode of Pocket Cast. This week, bringing you another highlight special around the DS platform. I'm Ed Moran. You can reach me now at Unicorn on Twitter. Unicorn being the handle that makes a great gamer tag, but a dog shit Twitter handle. So that's Unic Horn with a 0. Don't at me, just look it up. Joined with me today, I have Fletcher.
Hi, how are we doing? I can now be found on Twitter as well at GappedToothMF. That one's as easy as it sounds.
Mine's not that bad.
It's pretty bad.
It's pretty great, though, at the same time. So for anyone who might not have caught our first installment of Pocket Cast, this is a wonderful pocket-sized podcast about video games. But not just any video games. It's specifically about the DS library, because the DS is one of the most underutilized systems in modern gaming. And Fletcher had the wonderful idea of suckering me into a podcast where we're going to explore, possibly, every US release title for the DS.
We are going to.
So this is going to run for the next... I did some really arbitrary head math on the count of what that would look like. And it's like 30 years of Pocket Cast, man. It's...
So...
strap in.
60... We'll be in our 60s.
Perfect, dude. I have to imagine podcasts in the future are going to be awesome.
I hope we'll be able to keep up. I don't know. We'll be old men. It'll be a new guy's game by then.
Dude, we've got fish oil and shit now. We'll be fine.
It's fair.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Just remember to use your moisturizers and creams and whatnot, and brush your teeth. I don't know. We'll be all right. We delved into a specific title over the last 2 weeks. The title picked at the end of last week's episode was Solatorobo, Red the Hunter. It's a JRPG that takes you into some really fantastical places with unique characters to meet. It's a furry anime in video game format released for the Nintendo DS.
It's a beautiful furry universe.
It's something. It's quite unique. There's not a whole lot of content mechanically that the game provides. It's beautiful. You have breathtaking vistas and beautiful audio to accompany you on your delicate travels through this glorious world. As long as you can slog through the sound of your mech unit just clunking through every step of the way, which is, I know you were a huge fan of.
Solatorobo, the name meaning robot to the sky.
Yeah, something to that effect. Yeah, robo to sky.
Robot to the clouds.
Yeah,
I believe it's robot to the sky.
It's marginally fitting, I suppose, from what I know of the universe. Sort of.
I would say... Kind of, because they're all in the air, they're always in aircrafts, like the ships. What do you call those? Because there's not planes really.
No,
they're like steampunk, like boat.
Airships.
Airships is definitely what I would call that. Airships.
Yeah.
I was expecting the robot mech to fly a lot more.
Yeah.
Especially since they kind of introduced these mechanics more and more. But there's that one island where you do a lot of hopping around.
Yeah, that's very true. Either way, Robo to Sky, Solatorobo, the Red Hunter.
How would you describe this? Really, just like if someone asked you, what kind of game is that?
10,000 foot view. It's a beautifully artistic Japanese RPG following a hunter named Red, who is essentially a bounty hunter who gets wrapped up in some seemingly civil affair at which he has resistance to joining and getting involved. But he ends up helping people out. It becomes this much larger thing. And, he starts growing a conscience, blah, 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 doing the right thing. It's fairly typical stuff as far as plot goes.
Except for the fact that they're all furries.
Okay, yeah, I did kind of completely gloss over that one. Yeah, the entire thing, it's a furry fest.
Did you forget throughout the game that it was a furry game?
No, it was in your face 100% of the time. But it wasn't... it only because of all of the various canine cat people. I don't know. There's words for all of the different categories or classifications of animal, people, humanoid things. I'm not.
So I do believe there's a the sister. I don't know if you picked up on that. That chocolate is like Red's stepsister.
Yeah, stepsister. Yep.
Yeah. So she's maybe I misread the interview, but she's actually supposed to be a dog, but mid creation they changed her to a dog. I mean, she was a cat and they changed her to a dog.
You know, I feel like I remember reading something about that.
But
yeah.
she looks like a cat. That is a cat. There's no dog-like features about her at all. I don't see how she got changed. So maybe there was just a mistranslation in that interview.
Yeah, that could very well be.
The goal was actually to somewhat be able to tell a story and get people to not focus on the furry thing. Like even the publisher was like nah, they're getting into the game, but they're like, I'm just not buying this furry thing. Like this is weird. It's a really funny part in the interview about, you know.
It seems semi-mismatched because it does paint a rather beautiful picture, and it almost seems separate of the fact that all of the characters are in fact furries, and that I never got really a sexual tone from it, but. It was still very much there all of the time. It seemed such a weird combination.
It felt like it was just always right back there. And maybe that's just me misreading the facial expressions of Red and L.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, it's
anime.
It's an anime video game, right?
Speaking of anime, are you familiar with Madhouse at all?
The publishing studio?
Publish house, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
It does sound familiar. I don't know that I can tell you anything that they've ever done.
They did the intro to the game.
Oh, like the title intro?
Yeah. Yep.
That was sick as fuck.
Yeah, and the titles to a lot of their other projects, like animes and movies and whatnot.
I believe that.
Very, very cool sounding shows. I would like to check some of them out.
Yeah, that does sound worth looking into. Anyone out there that is either familiar or has never heard of Solatorobo, the Red Hunter, or Red the Hunter, that's the one, confirmed. I always get it mixed up. Anywho, you should hit up YouTube and look up some of the clips and soundtrack and what have you from this game. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's very well done. It's stylized heavily. It's a major selling point for the title for sure.
The like quick little cutscenes that happen at in the beginning. There's a lot of cutscenes.
Yeah.
And the way that they transition their characters and the background just instantly just makes you pay attention more. You know, it's so much attention to the art and the music than I feel like it is to anything else. And it's great at pulling your eyes into that. And immediately, would you call it an isometric game or a fixed camera?
You know, it jumps back and forth. I like there's a heavy mixture of 2D and 3D elements throughout. And sometimes, I mean, it's as drastic a change as between... Oh, I can't think of the technical term, but, you know, when you're in a given zone and you go to the edge of the screen and it loads the next section... whatever it's subzone, I don't know, whatever, somebody crucify me for not knowing, but you know, you might have a change of perspective from something more isometric with some, you know, a peppering of 3D visualizations in there, and overall it looks well done. There's not a lot of good that can be said for 3D rendering on the DS. It's not done very well most of the time.
No, it's
but this was subtle, and the blending of textures between the two styles, it just gave a lot of depth overall to the world.
Absolutely. Depth was... They did such a good job of making you want to go further into the painting. You know, because you see the painting, the backdrop drawing, and half the time you can move forward into the town that you're seeing the drawing of. And then seeing that, like you said, the transition from that to that 3D is surprisingly smooth. I only once caught myself thinking what you were saying about the 3D graphics, and it's kind of like a N64 or PS1 kind of look, which is not my favorite look. I don't know if it's anyone's favorite look, But it is impressive though when you think about it, when you're playing it on a handheld, and when you get into some battles where there's actually quite a bit going on the screen, and you're going up against some bigger mechs, you know.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. It definitely carried me through some of what I thought to be the weaker elements of the game, for sure. But all in all, it was fun to explore.
I keep feeling myself leaning into talking about, do you want to do gameplay, and then we'll get into development, whatever. But we can talk about the gameplay really instantly. It throws you into. I felt that it was instantly clunky, and then your main mechanic is to grab things and throw things. And when I say things initially, it is enemies, and that is, to me, one of the most boring things on the planet, because you either have to wait for them to attack, and they're slow to attack, and there's usually 2 of them, and then they attack, you lift them up by smashing the A button, and if you jump in the air and grab them and throw them against the ground, it gives them more damage if you jump, or you can grab them on the ground.
Yeah.
Whatever. You can also throw them into the enemy, the other enemy on the screen. It is so. That's it. It is. You keep thinking like, oh, there's going to be like a little more added to this.
Nope.
And then I guess, luckily, it does not solely rely on that mechanic, because you also do have the missiles being shot at you.
Yep.
I like that when you catch the missile and throw them back. It reminded me of like a Zelda boss battle, kind of, you know.
Sure. I also liked those. The perspective of some of those shots made timing of grabs and that sort of thing weird, especially given that that's one of the sole mechanics of your combat environment, is the ability to grab things and then ungrab them with velocity.
yeah, especially once they start to explode in your hands, and you can't tell when you're like, because of how the graphics are, you can't necessarily tell that it's going to explode.
I will say my first impression of combat is very much the same. I expected the first instance I got into where, you know, it tutorializes how to pick something up and then throw it, and then chain throws for, you know, combo damage, and then jump throws for additional. I'm like, wow, okay, all right, we're getting somewhere. And then that was it. And then you get different flavors of baddies that can only be attacked from behind, or, you know, what have you. But at the end of the day, it's mostly just waiting for everybody to hit their attack and then go into a recharge before they resume hunting you around, and then you just swoop behind them, pick them up, and toss them into each other, and then that's it.
Yeah, it gets, especially when you start getting into some boss battles, it gets, some of them are really fun, and some of them are just this dead repetition over and over, just kicking the fucking horse, man. And then you get into the Darwin Islands. Am I saying that correct? I believe that the name is Davrin or Darwin.
Something like that,
where there's all these islands in the air, a good amount away from each other, and you get a new mechanic. Something we forgot to explain is that you are on a mech. You're a fox boy on a mech, and you have a name for your mech. And I only played through what I've just recently found out was the first half of the game, because it seems like you've beaten the game, kind of like it leaves a cliffhanger, and that does tell you click and play through, and there's more. So then, you know, I only went halfway. Maybe him naming his mech ever comes up again. I don't remember the name of his mech, but he does have a name for it.
It's the Dahak.
The Dahak?
Yeah, Dahak.
Dahak.
Yeah. I suppose. Yeah.
The flying missions though were kind of fun. I liked that they changed it up, and you hop around. You got a limited. Your mech then, when you go to this island, has a boost ability that they put on it, and you can now fly around. You lose your grabbing ability, but you gain the ability to fly. Maybe you can still grab. You can eventually, but like it's not the focus. The focus is now flying for a limited amount of time from island to island to collect items. And then it puts you into a racing thing. You had asked me about the GP, the Robo GP. Is that what it's called?
I think so. Yeah. From the primary title screen, you have two options. You can go into a save file for the main game content, or you can go into Robo. I think it was GP. I don't know what the GP stood
Grand
for,
Prix.
but it's. Oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
That's why. That's pretty.
Okay. Good stuff. Yeah, good to know. Yeah,
Yep.
so Robo Grand Prix is an option, and it's basically a local or single player matchmaking for their version of Mario Kart with the in-game flight mechanics.
I'll give it more than Mario Kart. I'll give it more than it being a Mario Kart clone. It's definitely a clone of something, but not a race. I'm not a big racing fan, so it's not something I can name off the top of my head. But you're flying through a tube. You know, it's not Mario Kart.
Yeah, it's a little Mario Kart Monkey Ball-esque, perhaps. Some pickup, power-up mechanics. There's a slide turn mechanic that is
god awful.
It is terrible.
It is
bad.
So bad at those races because I would think I could drift, and nope, not in this game.
No, there's no clean exit from a drift maneuver. I like getting into the drift felt comfortable, maintaining a solid line through a turn. But once you let go, it resets your forward momentum to that 45-degree angle that your vehicle is cocked out in the drift, and it just shoots you out of that at full momentum at a 45-degree angle.
I thought I was messing it up. I thought I was messing that up. So I'm very glad to hear that you had the exact same problem there.
It was terrible.
Yeah, it was not fun. The moment I got done with that race, I did not go back to it. There was one side quest that you're supposed to deliver a pie. Or no. Yeah, it's a pie. You're supposed to deliver a pie. And I failed it. And I just abandoned that mission. I never did that side quest again. I don't think I ever went back to those islands until I had to.
I did a number of the side quests through there. It should be worth noting that Solatorobo does not have, that I came to discover, any stylus mechanics whatsoever, which I'm in part grateful for, because I don't know where it would have fit in, but I feel like it's possible it could have somewhat improved the flight mechanics or controls or what have you. It couldn't have made it any worse.
Yeah, I'm with you there, actually. There are probably a few different ways where they could have thrown that in, and it's surprising they didn't, for how much they tried to continue to change up the gameplay. That was something I really appreciated. As much as I didn't enjoy at first the clunky controls that I eventually got around to liking once I turned the volume off and couldn't hear my clonk, 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 clonk of my mech every time I took a step. That was terrible. But
yeah,
you get used to it. You start to adjust to it. I would have liked, I agree with you, that would have been great in the flying. I never considered that. But it uses no stylus, which is interesting, because in a somewhat recent interview, not even interview, it was like it was a message from the company
Bandai?
CyberConnect 2?
Oh,
is
sure.
that what they're called?
I have no idea.
I've got it written down here. CyberConnect 2, yep. The CEO or somebody in charge of Solatorobo from CyberConnect 2 did a video saying that they'd had some people asking about a remake for Solatorobo to be played on a more modern console. Because as we discussed in the last episode, the price of this game is like $388 or something. I looked it up recently, and it's almost $400. Okay. So there, people were asking for some way to play it, and he had said that they want to do that, but it's going to be so hard to transfer the game because of the use of the bottom screen and the top screen. And
that makes sense.
The stylus use. I'm like, there's no stylus use in this game, and I don't think that it really uses the two screens that importantly. Nothing that you couldn't miniaturize and put into And I could see it being that it's harder to like port the game or something along those lines. You know,
That could be.
What it really comes down to is that poor sales. So why would you have any
Yeah.
reason to remake it? Because you're going to have less people buy the remake than probably bought the original usually.
You know, I actually did a little bit of looking into the sales factor, because there's a lot of discussion. If you do research into the game history, one of the things you'll quickly come across is, you know, it was what, like 10 years of...
It was 7 years of concept, 3 years of development. Yeah.
3 years of development. Yeah. And you think, well, that's a lot for a DS title, and it certainly is. But the way that they went around advertising for the title was they set a Guinness World Record for airing the most TV commercials for a single product. They had 115-second commercials that aired all at once. Same day, but that was it. They just released all of these 15-second blips all at once, and then now they just set the record, and they were like, yep, boom.
So
We're
all
done.
at once across different networks, or all at once, like it was a constant of all in 24 hours? Does it really specify?
I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't look into it further. I interpret it as simultaneous airs across various networks, but it very well could have been back-to-back 15-second clips for 100 full seconds. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I bet it was probably all simultaneous or within 24 hours. You have to.
Either way, that was all they did for television advertisement. And most of the rest of what they had was all in magazine coverage for various like video game magazines and some Western titles like Nintendo Power and Gamer, that sort of thing. And that was really it.
Can you imagine seeing a commercial in 2009, 2010 for a DS title?
So that's the other great thing is they did TV and barely that if you really think about it.
Yeah,
and then various video game magazines when everything is now online. They did no online advertising from what I could tell. It was TV and magazine, and it just flopped heavily.
You know, it is an interesting story looking at CyberConnect 2 and hearing you say that, because they came up with the game. They had their game Tail Concerado for the PlayStation 1. And like we said, that was like 10 years before this game came out. In between then, they wanted to have, they had a sequel for that game in mind. This was, I believe, a bit of like a passion project for them. I think they had put one game out before, or they'd gotten to make the game they wanted to make.
Gotcha.
And that was Tail Concerado. Very, very similar in style. I believe you have a mech. There's less grabbing. It looks like the gameplay changes a lot throughout it. There's shooting that your mech can do at some of the bosses. It's furries again.
Of course.
It's really similar. It's cute. It also did not do well in sales. I believe it came out late in the PlayStation's life cycle. And they basically got put on a side burner with their sequel, because they'd come to their publisher with their ideas for the sequel, and they kind of were like, yeah, well, shut that down. We're putting you on another project because your sales flopped. They then put out the Dot Hack series on PS2, the Naruto Ultimate Ninja series, as well as the Naruto Shippuden series. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
You're the Naruto boy.
Yeah. That was right.
I also have put in my notes your favorite game, Naruto Online, the web browser game.
What the fuck?
I was wondering if you had played that as a young child.
No.
I would have been surprised. I bet you're sad to find out about it now.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm immediately disappointed to find out about it. I was all about Naruto.
They also did eventually Dragon Ball Z Kakarot.
Okay, this is some pretty hefty anime titles.
Yeah. So after Dot Hack and the Naruto series, they kind of gained their reputation back, and that's when they were given the go-ahead on Solatorobo.
Ah, that makes sense.
Solatorobo's original name, Project Coda, or something like that.
Okay, I remember seeing
to
that.
keep in theme with the concerto, because it's like a spiritual successor, and Bandai said no, there's no need to do that. We're gonna want you to just kind of rebrand this as its own thing, because no one played that first game, so we don't want to have the reference back to, they don't want to have someone be like, well, I didn't play the first one, so I'm not going to play the second one type deal.
Yeah. That's too bad. Those poor devs just trying to get their love project out there for the world to witness, and just at every turn.
Obviously it didn't go great with Solatorobo either.
You know what you need is 10 years of Naruto titles. Get back to work.
They did put out a third game in the Concerto series, I guess, if you want to call it that. Sola is a spiritual successor, and then a spiritual successor to that is Little Tale Story 2.
Little Tale Story 2.
Yes.
All right. Is there a Little Tale Story 1?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I made limited research on it because there's not a lot that you can do on Little Tale Story. It was a mobile game that was a social RPG game.
What the hell does that even mean?
I'm sure it had some gotcha elements. I don't know. That's definitely. Yeah. I would have been so disappointed not to bring that up. What is a social RPG? Was it like Club Penguin? But
dude, if you're trying to tell me there's a furry Club Penguin gotcha game, bro, I'm there, dude. I'm dropping daddy's credit card. I'm getting all the skins, bro. I'm getting those V-Bucks all day.
I took a peek at your notes and I saw that you had done some research into the furry.
No.
Furry names.
I already regret giving you full access to the drive, dude. Oh, that's a bummer.
I am so curious as to what a penguin furry, is that just called a furry, or is it called something else because they're not furry?
Dude, there's no way a penguin furry is called
a furry.
A furry. It's got to be something awesome.
I just assume, they don't have fur. They've got
oh, hey, look at that. 1.5 seconds later, I have a Reddit thread about that exact topic. Let's dive. Okay, well, this is already the most cancerous thing I've ever read in my life, so... Oh, boy.
What do you got? Come on, give me some information on these furries.
Okay, so here, let's do some deductive reasoning here, because here's what I do. Here, let me just explain to you. Let me expand your mental horizons, per se. I'd like to have you come with me on this journey of terrible garbage that is my historic review of this game, Solatorobo. So I was reading around on wikis, all kinds of, there's a disgusting amount of fandom out there for this game, by the way.
When you say fandom, do you also mean erotic fandom?
Rule 34? Absolutely. Are you kidding? This is, yes. What? Right. They already have dog and cat ears. You think people aren't out there slapping naughty bits on the bottom?
I have a feeling. I'm just curious too if that's what the fandom mainly is, or if there's kind of a split.
I'm going to be honest with you. The majority of what I that I was seeing was wholesome. I also didn't extend my search parameters to delve into the underworld. So
you don't want to turn off the safe search, huh?
No, I went into settings and turned that on for this. There's no way. I
can't blame you.
I will say the wiki had a dedicated page to break down the different categories of animal people, humanoid characters, and most of them are derivatives of their Latin root origin words, like canipulus, for dog people, something like that. I don't know the actual terms. I really, really tried hard not to commit any of it to memory. I don't want to be able to recall that at dinner on a Thursday night. I don't need it.
Accidentally spew this information out.
Yeah.
I
don't need that. It's not going to progress my life anywhere. But needless to say, I was overwhelmed by the wealth of information that had nothing to do with the game and was solely about the genetic makeup and characteristics, racial traits. I mean, it looked like a D&D character sheet. Like it was crazy.
It's impressive.
It really was. There was a surprising lack of detail about some of the individual characters on their bio page. But if you wanted to know what physical characteristics or traits you could expect out of somebody of their specific animal-human hybrid status, it was there in significant detail. So that's pretty interesting, I guess.
What do you think Almond is?
Oh, dude, I've been wanting to talk about Almond forever.
Yeah, I can't stop thinking about Almond.
Oh, my God. Almond is this random NPC that you run into, and he has an additional character card, right? There's no real dialogue in the game, so most of your interactions, you get the typical JRPG text tile with the, character profile pics in the corner. And so you get this Almond character who is... how would you describe Almond?
Almond is a pug man.
Okay.
And Almond is also a cross-dresser.
He's dressed up like a Persian daddy, right?
No, I disagree. I thought he was dressed up like a woman. This is the thing with the with the DS graphics and doing this like kind of there's some imagination to be used with some of these characters. And I thought that he was in a dress and had some chest hair cleavage going on.
I definitely noticed the chest hair.
Definitely has makeup on and earrings, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying that specifically makes you a cross-dresser, but when put with the dress, and his name is All Man. That's
a pretty great name.
That's so good. It can't just be a coincidence.
It's very possible. Regardless, Almond is probably by far my favorite NPC. It wasn't off-putting the first time I saw him, but he was drastically unique.
Fun.
And a curio of sorts. And I thought it was interesting that they had him in here, but he keeps coming up. You'll see him in different zones for side quests.
Yeah.
He's just always there. There's no other real NPC besides somebody with some arbitrary connection to a main character or a plot character. He's just there. And his dialogue is arguably, I think, the best dialogue in the whole game.
Absolutely.
His mannerisms.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. His made the most sense, too. Where you're talking about them having their portraits next to the text dialogue. And they change it between, it seems like Red has 5 different emotions at the very most. I'm giving him some credit there. And Almond, though, he only has a few, but they're used at the correct times. Reds get used just like they were like, oh, we should probably change it up. We've been using this one for too long. Let's make him blush during this really brutal fight scene that's about to go down.
Yeah.
Almond, though, perfect. Funny, nice. It was just it was a pleasure because every now and again the game would make you every 3 chapters or so go back through all your quest pickup zones because there's a quest broker. As Red the Hunter is a hunter, so he's he's like a bounty hunter.
A bounty hunter. Yeah.
And he is looking for all these jobs, and so all these quest brokers in different locations have different jobs. The thing is, though, that you can only take certain level quests based on what your bounty hunter level is. And certain ones give you more points towards it, but none of them give you very many points.
Dude, you need 10. You have the worst XP meter I've ever seen. It's just 10 bubbles, and you get so many bubbles for a given quest. And I liked the side quest. I'll be honest. If I felt like I wanted to take the time to really play through this game and not try to burn through it for content in 2 weeks, then I feel like I wouldn't have been so bad.
No, dude, I don't think so. Because the problem with the side quests is that they don't give you enough character, enough atmosphere to the world. They don't change up either the quest, really.
That's fair.
There's 3 different quests that you do, and they're for a few different people, but there's like you said, the dialogue between these people is usually just so mundane. That's why Almond is a spark of joy. God bless Almond.
God bless Almond. There's the hashtag for the footnotes.
Hell yeah. Why make me do all of these quests? You know, like it's just I'm just well,
especially when the main
cutting
story
these
progression
studies
is
out.
locked behind.
You know, I finished the game, and we talked about how at the end of the game, you're actually halfway through the game, and it tells you to keep going on the main menu.
Yeah.
I don't think that's too much of a spoiler, since it's technically not even the end. It's the halfway mark.
True.
I had no desire. So I was like, I played the game. I got the bad end.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
I get it. I want to give this game my full undivided attention because it is a beautiful game, and I can feel the care and attention that went into building the world. Again, its main selling point. It is a fully fleshed out universe. They thought about everything. If you were to dissect the pixels on any given screenshot from this game, you could zero in and you could tell that the steel nails are, up to code on the deck that your character passes under. It is pristine. And that's about it. There's the rest of it it's hard to keep you going. It's not a terribly long game though.
It's not. I agree. It's nice for the pick up and play.
Yeah.
It's made to be longer than it needs to be still. It could have been a shorter game, and the reason behind that is there's so many little conversations, small one like between you and the quest clerk. And every time she tells you like good luck or something, and it feels like it takes so long.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Just give me this stupid quest because it's not for the story. It's not for building up atmosphere. This is just for extending the gameplay. So just give me the quest, and we go grind it out. And then you get there, and then you got to talk to this person about their problem and what you can help them with. And it's the same thing you've read on all the other islands, and it's just so boring.
Dude, the worst ones are the duels. When you have to go to the dueling arena, and then you got to talk to the dueling guy, and he's like, yeah, come with me, but I have to talk about my canker sores. And then you finally get into the VIP room, and then he has to remind you what's going on again. And then you have to go talk to the check-in lady to actually check in for the round. There's always 3 rounds, and every time, if it's a special duel for like a main story quest, then there's an announcer, and there's this big to-do, and everybody has to have 3 lines of dialogue for every touch point. And I'm with you. I'm like, I could not get the rhythm to spam through text fast enough to...
No, because you can't tap fast to get through it. You have to hold the button down, but the dialogue isn't that long, so like by the time you get the held down, it's already halfway through the sentence that you're trying to skip through. There's no way to make it go fast. And while the cutscenes are beautiful, they are short. They are really short. And then you sit through dialogue, and the dialogue is 2 dogs talking and making weird faces, and they make noises that you don't really know if it's a good or a bad noise. And you can sometimes judge based on the face of like how they're feeling. Sometimes not so much.
Oh, I love the random audio ads that they include over the the text dialogue, where you get these random sound bites, and I don't know what language this would have originally been released in. I would assume it's probably Japanese or some other Asian language. But Japanese. Red constantly, like, his go-to audio ad is something like Nandeshka. And I'm familiar with like Nani, Nandeska, but it's a bastardization of that I'm not familiar with, and I feel like it's an intentional deviation from actual Japanese for the sake of
making their own language.
Yeah, sure. I don't know,
because you can do. Well, I mean, maybe because of their graphics, they're limited to such little, and because of the soundtrack, they were limited to such little voice audio. But you can do, voice on the DS.
Absolutely.
Did you know that every character has a voice actor?
I'm not super surprised by that at all.
They all make one noise, though.
Yeah, you're definitely right. Everybody does have their own unique anime-esque exclamation audio clip that they express now and again throughout their dialogue.
Yeah, dude.
You get a lot of nanis, you get a lot of it's just a bunch of vocal expression is what it is. It's okay. It's not great, it's not bad.
It definitely leans into if you look at this game like it's tongue in cheek, leaning into the super RPG anime type feeling, then it's kind of funny. But the more you play it, the less you get that feeling, and the more it starts to kind of take itself seriously. Your main characters are Red, Chocolate. Chocolate is Red's stepsister.
Which is hilarious because chocolate is a no-no food for cats and dogs, but continue.
Then the side character that you pick up that becomes part of your trio is L. Is that how you would pronounce the name? It's like
it's like ELH. Yeah, I would assume L.
And L is this little mystical cat boy, arguably.
Who's in fact a girl.
Big spoiler there.
Yeah, big spoiler. I'm not gonna lie, I missed the fact, like, during L's character introduction that they were an assumed boy character. Yeah, I just always assumed the whole time it was a girl.
I honestly didn't ever put too much thought into the gender of L.
All right, well, okay, so in my defense, I'm a big anime fan. There's not a lot of anime tropes that surprise me.
Yeah.
I was pretty confident there was going to be a gender role thing happening somewhere in there, and sure enough, there's a accidental shower scene.
Red's very cool about it.
Yeah, no, Red's a true gentleman.
And then later on, they do a decent job too of like explaining to a younger person why someone would dress as a different gender. It seemed like they handled it tastefully. It was very wholesome.
There's some really forward-thinking things.
You know,
yeah,
cheesy as fuck.
I gotta say, if there was no Grindfest, if it was just the story, the world, the universe, the sum of the characters, honestly would have pulled me all the way through this title. The Grindfest just got in the way, having to spam through useless quest dialogue.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Not wanting to skip the cutscenes because they're so gorgeous, but also hoping they'll end soon so you can get through the slog to figure out what's happening. It's entertaining enough, I think, if you can look past that to really find a lot of enjoyment from this. That was a bummer for me, wanting to actually experience it.
It was a big roadblock. I could see that if we weren't doing it on the podcast and I was just playing it for fun. If I got to that point, that might be a walking away point. You know, maybe because there's within the first half of the game, there's 2 different times that you have that come up, and by the second time, I might have been. I don't know. They do kind of get you. You're a little curious. The one thing that really kept me going was the curiosity to see the next island that we were going to go to, because each one has a different kind of theme to it as well as style. You know, where your first town is a very just comfy, very cozy spot that you would go and relax at. Yeah, very cottage.
Yeah, it's cottagecore.
Amazing music, very comfy music. I could hang out on that spot a bit. I enjoyed when doing the quest when I had to go back there because I liked just the feel of that.
Absolutely.
There was a island Spillon, I believe is the name, and it's like a water themed one. That was a cool one. That had that really Venice kind of feel to it a little bit.
Yeah, I think that.
And then you had the sewers in there, which has just, to me, one of the coolest points of showing the visuals off, where it's got that fixed camera and the way that it pans as you run across, and it just does it in a different way than most games with that kind of camera style would do. And you see that more and more throughout the game, where you think you know what kind of fixed camera you're going to walk into based on the design of the room and your past experience with games, and it's usually not. And that was a fun surprise of when you go in and see some of these colossal monsters, like the fish that come flying up out of the water, and you're like, Wow,
Yeah.
that's gonna come up later. That thing is scary.
Yeah, that one took me by surprise because I remember walking into that room for the first time, entering the sewers, and I mean, when you say large fish, this sucker fills up the 45% of your bottom screen. It just comes up and kisses the roof and then goes back into the water, and you're like, what the fuck? And I never saw it again.
There is a side quest that you do, and you do actually
God damn
end up
it.
taking that one out. Yeah.
Well, shit.
But it is an intense, it's a fun battle. Those side quests do eventually have, I was going to say that's probably my favorite side quest, is that one.
Really?
Fish. That might be later on. I don't know. Maybe you can skip that one. Because I know there's quests that I skipped when I was going through that slog of grinding through the quests.
Yeah. I ended up going back and repeating a bunch of the
Duel Arena. I never went
quests.
back.
The duels were brutal.
Ever again.
That was when, because initially when I first started playing, I did go and do all the side quests in, as they were available instead of rushing the main story, and that's mostly because I discovered the shop early on, and there's a small customization mechanic where you can customize some of the core attributes of your mech, and there's not a whole lot to it. It's pretty straightforward. You've got attack, defense, mobility, hydraulics, and revive. I never messed around with revive.
There's a revive?
There's a revive.
Oh
I don't know if that's HP regen or what it is.
I wish I would have known that.
You have mobility, does exactly what it says. You move faster. Hydraulics reduces the amount of time it takes for you to pick up an enemy when you're spamming A, which you have to get in sequence before they get their attack off, because then there's a knockback, of course. And I maxed out attack the whole time, and the fights were boring and repetitive, but they were also long, because it's just you trying to get behind them so you can lift them up and do some actual damage, and it's brutal. And then I mixed it up with some like hydraulics and mobility upgrades, and it is a world of difference. I'm zooming circles around these idiots just all day, just getting in there, bap, 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 swing, bam, poning people, and that made combat a little bit more fun, or at least less time consuming.
Yeah, I did the 10 plus attack, and then I believe I had by the end 3 agility, 3 mobility, and 3 hydraulic.
Okay, yeah, I think we probably ended up close to having basically the exact same stats.
Like you said, the focus was how can I get this over the fastest. I considered just maxing out attack all the way, because then you could just, I imagine, pick them up and just destroy them. Like I made the faster route.
It does. It made the boss fights. The only true difficulty I found in combat was when you had multiple enemies to fight at the same time, and that's only because they would mess up the timing of attacks, or one would hit you while you're trying to pick up somebody else. But the boss fights were mostly solo dolo, mano a mano, and it was pay attention to the first 2 attacks. Okay, I figured out the mechanics. I'm jumping over this thing. I'm grabbing this thing out of the air and returning it. Not very complicated, but having the maxed out damage on those, I mean, you hit them 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, that sounds nice. I felt like it was so cheap, and I felt cheated when they would throw in those 2 enemies just off of it at the same time of each other, so that way their attack would be going off. So it was almost as if you had to grab one, get attacked while you were grabbing one to make their timing even further off from each other, which maybe that is a tactical thing, but it didn't feel like it. It felt, especially near end game, half game, whatever you want to call it, it felt that he could waste so much HP that by the time you get to the boss, you're like, oh, I have no HP, stressing out. There's a save point right before the boss. You restore all your HP. What was the point of all of that? Well, you know, I would get it if it's like this, like you gotta like save up your HP for this boss, and maybe then I'd feel more cheated. I don't know. I just did not care for that. I was surprised by how much praise this seems to have. as well as the fact that it's a passion project. And it's just so, like, cookie cutter, like you said. You wait for the 2 attacks, and then you go. And it's just like you're playing this game to finish this game. It's really not even that you're having fun anymore. You're just like, all right, I gotta see now. I don't know why I'm still playing, but I am, type deal, you know?
Yeah. Combat is not rewarding. It's okay, but it definitely is a come down point overall, which is a bummer. Again, all the furry shit aside, if there's an anime adaptation,
I believe there is.
I was gonna say I thought there might be. I know I saw a lot of digital animations surrounding it, but I wasn't sure if they were.
Yeah, I think there's like either
ad spot animations or promo videos,
something like that. They were like promo backstory type deal, I believe.
Yeah, maybe I'll check it out one day. And I love anime, just not a furry guy.
And
I don't feel like
there's a big part in the interview, I think I said earlier, but they really did want to tell a story with these types of characters without having that affect it. You know, they wanted you to be able to look past it because of how great the story is. What? The story is not that good? It
was pretty standard anime stuff and not bad. It was okay. It definitely wasn't enough to carry it through the rest of its flaws, unfortunately.
It was very mediocre.
Yeah, but I didn't hate the time playing it. I did have fun. It was entertaining to an extent.
I'm also excited to get away from this game at the same time.
Yeah, I'm okay. As long as we're not doing Barbie Madness all, for the next 2 weeks, I'm looking forward to something else.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to still touch on music, because the music on that was a very redeeming factor.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The one thing with my issue with the sound design was that clank, clank, clank of your mech whenever you walked around. That really just fucking kills me. Because the mech never feels heavy. It never feels big. Everyone that you're fighting is in bigger, cooler mechs. I understand I couldn't have like one of the really big mechs, but can I have one of the really cool mechs? Not the one that's like used for moving containers. That's got to be the backstory behind his mech, is that like it's literally just used for moving containers around, but he's a badass pilot, so he can use it for whatever he wants.
Yeah, the mech is not cool. I'm with you. I would rather just turn on the OST and put in some headphones and play the game on silent. There are some cool sound effects in some of the menus, but not enough to,
No, but the music was very on point. It was actually also the same. I believe they had the same composer from the first game that they got onto this game too.
Well, it was. I don't know how to pronounce their name. It's like Lean, Lien, and the N is capitalized.
I believe that's why I had composer. But
that's fair. Yeah, I don't know how to say it. Lion, lean, line. I don't know. Something. There's the credit where it's due, though, I guess.
Yeah, and that was possibly my favorite. That and the cozy towns. I mean, even the weird mining towns and the like sketchy halfway looking town. There's a town that's made out of like battleships and old debris. That one is a super cool one. That's got a great soundtrack to it as well.
I would love to sport the landscape and world art for this title in its pixel form, because I've seen some of the digital, full-on anime representations, and they are cool, don't get me wrong, but the pixel art is beautiful, especially when it comes to environments. It's amazing, and I would love to sport that like a desktop background or something. It's almost Howl's Castle-esque in terms of its oddity and... Yeah, it's cool. It's cool stuff. The world building is there. It's a cool place to be. There's just not a lot of cool stuff to do in it.
I kept thinking that they were just going to continue to change up the gameplay which I was grateful for because I didn't care for any of the elements. And then you're like, oh, it's these 4 things. It's either battle, fly, chase, like look for something.
Oh, well, let's not forget the other core game mechanic where your robot can't go into water, and so sometimes a room will have water and you have to dismount, avoid anything because you have no capabilities without your mech other than a little stun gun.
A little stun gun.
Yeah, a little stun gun. And you have to find the lever, the wheel, the crank, turn off the water, and then run back to your mech. So those sections were also pretty great. I enjoyed those.
I did because you didn't have the clunking of the mech. You moved around like fluidly. You had a really good size comparison kind of to how big you actually are on your mech because the ladders, they look smaller, a bit smaller when you're on the mech than when you get off and you're like, oh yeah, okay, this is a normal size thing. I can definitely climb down. But
yeah, that's fair.
I had in my notes saying something that this game I noticed, and I do this in every game. When I see a ladder, the first thing I do is try to jump and grab the ladder. And you can't do that in this game.
No, you cannot. It's funny you say that because I never had the same conscientious moment where I discovered that I either do this or realized even that it was something you couldn't do. But after you verbalizing it, 100% I tried to do that because I don't want the animation time to ascend or descend a ladder is fixed. You can't go fast, you can't go slow. And for me, it's the same as trying to skip through dialogue. I'm like, I can read faster than you're spitting it out.
Yep.
And I feel like I could climb that ladder a lot faster. So there's no way to get through those any quicker. And that drove me insane.
Especially once you realize that you can jump and then get into your mech from a jump.
Yeah. I did not find that one out. There is no fall damage, though. So if you're going down, ladders be damned.
I just just skip that shit going down. And that's... If I can skip it going down, why can't... See what I'm saying? If you have this mechanic like where I should be able to jump and grab it, if I can jump and get into my mech, and if I can skip down the ladder, why can't I jump and grab the ladder? It was the most frustrating. It shouldn't have bothered me so badly, but it sure did, man. It killed me.
That's why I didn't like this game overall, is the ladder mechanics.
It's a make or break situation. I agree.
Fix your goddamn ladders.
I would like to keep a note on future games that we play. Keep an eye on the ladder. We'll see.
Do you want me to add ladder mechanics to the scorecard? Done.
I think for this game too, we need to have like a furry counter, and this definitely gets 10 out of 10 for furry counter.
Oh, in terms of a 1 to 10 rating on like animal human population?
Yep.
10. Yeah, okay.
That's what I think. I think we should make credits for like each game. give them a little boost,
Oh god. Give them some unique attributes to give them to grade on a curve,
absolutely.
I think some would say. Oh dear God. Do you want to get into the overall game rating?
Let's talk about this overall game rating for sure. This is Ed's idea, so I'll let Ed take the wheel on it.
Oh God, I just thought it would be cool if we had our own system for giving games a rating. If we're going to be so critical of them the whole time, the least we could do is give them the Rotten Tomatoes version of Pocket Cast's rating.
I don't want to be too critical. We enjoyed the experience.
I had a good time.
I'm just ready for a new one.
I am too, but I still want to absolutely...
There are some games that I think are going to feel like 2 weeks is way too short. This was not one of those games.
I don't think this was one of those games. I wanted to make it further than I did. That's it.
I feel you. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so all of these are going to be rated on a scale of 1 to 10. Story. Where would you put story at?
Out of 10, I don't want to be too mean on this, but like 3 or 4. What are you thinking?
Ooh, man, I was gonna give it like a 6 or a 7.
Yeah, I could see that too. Maybe a 5. Then I would give it a 5 because I said it was really mediocre, and that was my problem with the story, was how just cookie cutter it was. I did kind of enjoy the leaning into the jokes.
That's
I see
fair.
Why you're at a 6. I can see why you're giving it a 6, but I think I'd give it a 5.
Okay, I respect that. I'm gonna leave it at a 5. Do you want to leave a 3 or do you want to change
5.
yours? 5 it is. All right, gameplay. Overall gameplay.
If I liked the story more than the gameplay, then which I do, I think, yeah, I do. I'd have to give the gameplay the 4.
Ooh, I'm at a 2.
Wow, you really did not like that.
I know. It ain't great. It ain't great.
It's so surprising to me that it's a passion project. I know I already said that, but it's just, man, this is like 10 years in the making. My fucking ass.
They were excitedly passionate about very specific aspects of this game, and those aspects were pretty great.
That is true. I do agree with you there. I absolutely agree.
I feel like they could have hired people who were passionate about story and hired people that were passionate about mechanics, but maybe they couldn't find people in those categories of specialization that were also furries. I don't know. Maybe that was a roadblock. Maybe not. I'm just throwing that out there.
Do you think that they are furries, the makers of these games?
Probably some. Yeah. All? I don't know.
All right.
But maybe.
How many developers?
Oh, God.
All right, what's our next category that we're rating on?
Audio.
Through and through. I will give it a 8.
I'm going to give it a 9.
Yeah. I was almost going to say 9. So, yeah, I feel you there.
The other one I have in here doesn't really apply to this one, but rate it how you feel. Stylus. Good, bad?
Because if they would have used it, it would have been bad.
I agree. Visuals.
Oh, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, same here. That's where I got
when you
it.
see this game on YouTube list, I do believe it's usually more about it being a graphically impressive game more than anything else about it.
100%. It's very beautiful to look at everywhere you go. It is quite an impressive title in that nature.
Would you pay the current asking price for this game?
Would I pay $399.99 to buy Solatorobo from somebody on eBay? Fuck no. Absolutely not. Would I Google image search Solatorobo stunning visuals all day? Would I right click one of those image and set as desktop background? Probably. Maybe. It depends on what computer I'm on. Let's be real, okay? I'm an aesthetics guy, so if I can find a spot to fit some pixelated anime furry stuff, I would consider
Your
it.
phone.
No, sorry. No, I probably
Your
wouldn't.
work phone.
My work phone. Yeah, probably. I'd actually probably consider changing my team's profile picture to Red
Oh,
Hunter.
yes. I love it, dude. He's such a specific kind of wolf boy. Anamorphic, is that the word?
Dude, I have no idea. And if I did, I wouldn't admit to it here.
Well, anamorphic, I feel like just means like a human-looking animal.
That's very possible. Again, I admit to having no intimate knowledge as to the correct definitions or terms around the furry community.
You heard it here first. Ed is a furry. Confirmed.
No, it is not a furry. That is what I just said. All right, we've only got one remaining attribute to score this game against, and that is ladders.
0.
Bro, 0.
This game got a low score.
So that puts us both at an adjusted 6 out of 10. Overall.
That's higher than I expected that to come out.
That's about where I thought, given just how drastically the visuals outweigh everything else, which is very mediocre.
Yeah, and the sound.
I felt we'd
and
come
the
in.
Sound also helps a lot.
Yeah, sound
Hats
also.
off to the sound and the visual design teams on CyberConnect 2. The rest of you can suck some furry dicks. Or vaginas.
Maybe happily
vaginas,
so.
Whichever one offends you more.
Oh, God. Yeah, neither
Suck
are really
some fur.
helping me with anything. Suck some fur. That's vile. But we'll probably have to also turn that into a hashtag.
Absolutely. Would you like to get into what we are playing for the next 2 weeks?
Yes.
What do you have on your...
Yes.
Do we want to do this in a randomizer?
We can. I've got 5 picked
cool.
out. We could.
You
wanna do that?
Solatorobo, kind of a disappointment. I don't know about you, but I had high expectations for it.
I did too with because you get that big blast of music and visualizations from the very start with that amazing animated intro, and those are the two main selling points of this title, and then it's downhill from there. Disappointment, I would agree with. Didn't hate it though. Wanted it to be better.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. Out of the list of games that we've thrown into our randomizer, what's the one you're like most hoping it lands on?
I'm actually receding back into the anonymity of the list itself. There's not any one in particular that I want the most. I intentionally left some of my more desired ones, specifically the Castlevania title that I was playing through when we were kind of just dinking around at the beginning before we really got into the flow of what we're doing. And I intentionally left that off because I do really want to play it, but I also want to wait for it, and get some other titles under my belt.
You're the kind of guy that likes to save the best part of dinner for last.
I do, man, and I carefully craft the perfect bite, the perfect amount of mashed potatoes, the right number of peas, the right shape of steak to make sure they all will stack up on the fork. You could say that. Yeah, I like to do that sometimes.
Yeah, so we're definitely getting the carrots and the not so great stuff out of the way.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I know we do. You and I both have Professor Layton in here for our desired next plays.
I think we've got some good titles in here. I don't think there's a single one it's going to land on that I'm not going to enjoy. I think, hoping for a more kind of faster paced game.
I too would appreciate
After
that.
Such a slow.
I almost threw something simple in there, like arcadey style, something that wasn't meant to really harbor a lot of plot or story or complexity, just to keep me entertained within a given time frame without too much expectation, just to kind of avoid the same pitfalls of Solatorobo. But I don't know, we'll see.
Did you have a specific game in mind that you were wanting to put in that you didn't, that you were just talking about that was arcadey, or are you just saying in general?
Oh, no, I mean in general. And so I tried to go for what I thought was kind of a spattering of different titles with different genres. So I've got Professor Layton, I've got Age of Empire Mythologies, Dragon Quest IV. I actually threw that one in there for you, so you're welcome. I know you're a big fan.
I do appreciate it.
I also threw World Ends With You.
I was about to start watching the anime of that today.
That was my greedy pick. I know that one's more of a commitment, and I think both of us are wanting to spend more than 2 weeks. I threw it in there mostly because it would be quite the upset, I think, for a follow-up.
I almost threw it on my list, but I almost wondered if you were going to do it where we doubled up on ones, and I didn't want to double up on that one because kind of same as funny. You, I wanted to save it for a little bit,
That's fair. No, I'm with you there. I also want to savor it, that for later, but we'll see. I also threw Avalon Code. I don't know anything about it, but the thumbnail looked cool. I liked the sprite. What can I say?
I agree. I don't know anything about it either, but yeah, I'm down for it. Do you wanna hit that randomize?
Let's do it. All right, number 1 spot goes to Glory of Heracles. I think that was one of yours.
That was one of mine. That is a game that I've not played before. It looked cool, looked pretty. It has an RPG type battle system, it looks like, that has like a big battle screen type area like of what you would see like Final Fantasy games. But then when you're choosing your attacks, it almost looks like a tactics kind of style look. And you're choosing which one's attacking in your front line and your back line. It's interesting looking. Developed by Paon, P-A-O-N.
Sure.
Not one I'm familiar with, but published by Nintendo, so that's promising. It came out in 2008 in Japan, 2010 in North America, so another later release.
Cool. All right. Well, I have high expectations already for visual and audio coming out of Solatorobo.
I mean, I'll even take less on the audio and visual and more on the gameplay. That's I can take a cut on that to get more out of the game than what we had on this last one.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't complain either. We'll have to see. I'm excited to get my teeth into something new and different, and hopefully something with slightly faster
As
pacing.
sad as it is to say, I think that that's all that there is to say about Solatorobo. It's a really hard to pronounce name with hard to pronounce towns, with good music, good visuals,
Amen.
terrible gameplay, tedious drive upon the story. Do you get what I'm saying when I say that?
I do.
The
Instantly.
drive that you have to make to get to the end of somewhat mediocre results is a terrible drive. So, we look forward to seeing you next time with a much better game, I hope.
We'll
God,
see.
we hope. Have a great week, and game on, gamers.